All right, all right, all right. You guys forgive me. I am getting myself together. Let me see. If you are here, please let me know that you are in the stream. And um yeah, let me know you're here so I can shout you out. I am a little bit behind and a little bit kind of all over the place right now, but that's okay. We're gonna get it together and we are going to have this conversation. I do have another person that is going to be joining me today. I see her beautiful face already. Hey, hey, hey. Hi, sis. Can you hear me? You're mute. You're muted.
Pieces. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
The same as you. I'm all over the place.
All over the place today, but we're gonna get through this. You look very beautiful. Where you going? Where you going?
Oh, I'm on here with you.
Oh sure. Oh sure. For the platform. How you feeling today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Ah, so am I. So one of the things that I was thinking on doing today is I'm probably just gonna have the lines open. So if anyone wants to join, because I was trying to like get some other people on at like the last minute. And so as people come in to have the conversation with us, I'm going to make sure that I put the link in the comment section as much as I possibly can. So what I'm going to do is I know they done gave us a whole bunch of new stuff on this thing, girl. You got music in the background and everything now. Let me see if I can do that. Let me test it out, my can you uh-oh, acoustic. Okay. I feel like let me see if I yeah, yeah. That's a little vibe right now. That's a little vibe. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Unless you want to have some rock or something, but they got I'm just gonna leave it there because what I'm about to do is grab myself a drink. I was rushing, I apologize. So I'm gonna grab myself a drink and I'm gonna be right back and we are just gonna dive into this conversation together. Is that okay?
That sounds good. I'm gonna
So sorry, Maat. I'll be right back. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. And we are back. My apologies. So I want to make sure that I shout out to Inya because she is always here supporting. Hey Inya, she says she's happy to see us. She missed us. I miss talking to my aunt publicly as well. Just having a public conversation together. So yes, I'm gonna turn that acoustic off because I just cannot. I hope I know how to turn it off. Oh, there you go. You can mute it. Well, look at here. Look at here. All right. Hey, we have another supporter just passing through. Hey, sis. Hope you could stay for the conversation. Make sure you share it because it's going to be a good one. It is going to be a hot, hot one today. And I am going to be opening up the lines very early for you guys to join. So if you have a camera, you don't have anything else to do today, you feel like being cute online, whatever that is, you might, you know how we do when we have an outfit, my aunt, and we just kind of went from point A to point B, and it's like, wait, I gotta go back out because not enough people see me. Well, if you're having one of those days, come up today on the platform. If you feel like not enough people saw you with your makeup and your outfit and your, looking cute, then feel free to join us today on the platform to have this conversation. No pressure, but we would love to hear from as many people as possible, men and women, on these particular topics. So, nice to see you, sis. Thank you, guys. Thank you, actually, and all my sisters for the love and the support. Always, always, always. Thank you. So, my aunt, one of the things I did not do yet, and I'm going to do that right quick. So, I'm just doing a few housekeeping things that I am a little bit behind on. I am going to go ahead and share this on my Facebook right quick. Um, Let me see, and then we could get started. So y'all just bear with me. I'm a little bit behind today. Just a little bit, not a lot. Just a little bit. Let's see if I can find it. And I am not seeing it, but oh, and here it is. So just give me 1 second. Let me just do this. Oh, and here it is. So okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share it to my Facebook real quick. Get that out the way, and then we can get started. Let's see. All right. Okay, and I'm going to make sure people know, feel free to come up with us. Just it. All right. So, oh, I haven't even plug the thing in yet. My lord. Okay. And paste. And I am finished. There we go. All right. So, my aunt, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, you saw my flyer, right?
Yes, I did.
And I know you've noticed some of those hot words, those
Right.
those buzzwords, and we're going to get into that shortly and what buzzwords are. But I wanted to talk about this specifically because I think oftentimes when there are these, I call them downloads,
Mm-hmm.
these buzzwords that are kind of circulating, these trending topics or trending words. I am finding oftentimes when we peel back the layers, there are a lot of undertones, specifically racial undertones, that are driving them, that for whatever reason we don't speak to. We get caught up um in the trend of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
In how fast it's moving and how much attention it's getting. We get caught up in that. We want to jump on the bandwagon of this is hot, and so I if I talk about this, then that's going to make me hot, right? Or it's going to bring that traction to my platform, my podcast, my social media, whatever that is, right?
Right.
Or I want to appear confrontational, or I just want to be in the loop. And so we jump right in and we start swimming in it, right? And I often find that it's usually a very layered conversation that we try to oversimplify, and therefore offending each other in the attempt to oversimplify it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And I think anything, especially with black women and black men, I think we gotta be very careful how how we tackle topics.
Mhm.
1 minute, let me turn on. I didn't even turn on my light. That is much better. I think we gotta be careful how we tackle topics that pertain to the black man and black woman dynamic or relationship, right? Because oftentimes the narrative is not being controlled by us,
Mhm.
right? And oftentimes, the lack of substance around the conversation is very deliberate, you know. And
Mhm.
so I just want us to have a little bit more of an in-depth conversation, and I couldn't think of anybody else but you, because I know you're a surgeon when it comes to these type of things, and I respect your mind, and I respect your ability to objectively analyze
Mhm.
certain topics, specifically ones that have to do with people that look like you and I,
Right.
right? And so that's why I pretty much wanted to have the conversation, because these words are floating around and
Mm.
there's a lot of bullets flying from both sides. And when I say sides, and I even hate to say sides,
Right.
because to say size is to imply that we are on opposite ends of this. And technically, right now, the way it's playing out, that's kind of what's happening, right?
Mhm.
But I even hate the idea of sides. But bullets are flying from both directions, both differences in opinions. And I just want us to have the conversation, right?
Mhm.
Without the need to offend each other. So that's specifically, or if I was to narrow it down, that's specifically why I wanted to talk about these particular topic. It's been on my heart for a while. My aunt, you and I have talked behind the scenes about some of these topics.
Mhm.
I know you how you feel about some of them, and I know how I feel, and I just wanted us to
Okay.
just build on that today. Yeah. And so the first thing I'm gonna do is make sure that if this is your first time here, you may not even I might not even know you're here. You might just be watching. That's fine with me. But if you haven't subscribed, don't be just stealing my energy like that. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
just tapping into my intellectual property. I'm not even asking you to pay anything. Just hit the subscribe button. That's all. Okay, you can continue to watch. I would love it if you join the conversation. But either way, no pressure. And if you have not followed me yet and you want to follow me on Instagram, you could find me at the real Hanifa Nayela. And if you're feeling generous or you want to donate, you can also cash at me at $ Hanifa Nayela. Again, no pressure, but all donations are welcome. All right. That being said, my at. Okay. So the first thing I want to start off with is what is a buzzword? So, when we talk about buzzwords, a buzzword is a word or phrase that is fashionable at a particular time or in a particular context. So,
Mhm.
it really depends on, I used to think it depends on the season we're in, but
Mhm.
now I've changed my thinking around that. I now think it is whatever season the powers that be wants to push us into,
Mhm.
right? So it's not the other way. It's someone else is driving the car. We are passengers oftentimes, right? So a buzzword to me, is a download. So I look at it like the Matrix, right? And it's like someone say, okay, let's download this. And then it spreads like a virus. And now this is all we're talking about. I think recently it was the toxic masculinity thing. I
Mhm.
was like, yo, I'm gonna need someone to find toxic masculinity, tie he or she up, and just kick them off a cliff somewhere,
Mhm.
never to be seen again. Because even the way in which we're having this conversation is toxic in itself.
Yeah.
So that's just one example to where you see something that's trending and you keep hearing about it and you keep hearing, you're what are we really talking about?
Mhm.
So that's pretty much, for those of you that don't know what a buzzword is, it's just a trending topic or a trending word or a trending phrase that everyone, whether they're qualified to or not, wants to give their opinion on. You good with that, Mahat?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So the first one I'm gonna start with is this one. So this is a big one, my aunt. And now, I
Having that
was like,
debate.
I was over here eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Like, which one do I want to start with first?
Mhm.
So we're gonna start with struggle love. So my
Okay.
aunt, you've heard this term, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Ah, Genesis said children in the passenger seat driving with the toy wheel. Correct. Correct. And you swear you stare in the car. No, baby, that ain't you. But what when you hear struggle love, my aunt, what thoughts does that evoke for you?
So I remember when I first heard this term, I did not know it meant what it means.
Mm-hmm.
So, I thought it just meant like, um a couple coming to, they're coming together, and it's like always like you're always in like, you're struggling to connect, like like that person may be, what's the word? Like that person may not be treating you right, but you're like, you're struggling to keep that relationship together.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I realized what the real term meant, the first thought that comes to my mind is that, and I've told you this, like we all want this like ready-made person. We don't want to go through, because
Mm-hmm.
every relationship, especially when you have a lasting relationship, it has its ups and downs. So the main thing that people say about struggle love is it always goes to the money aspect.
Yes.
Because there's many things that can go awry in your relationship, but it always, in this today's climate, it
Mm-hmm.
always goes back to money. So, and it always is from the woman's kind of perspective. Like that man is, he's not financially able to, keep up with you, or he's not where he should be in life. So that is considered struggle love. And the issue I have with that is times change all the time. Somebody might be making six figures today, and then they might be barely making ends meet. So if you're in that relationship, you're in it. Like you're in it. So you might be making more in this season, and then he might be making more in the next season of your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a big issue with the whole struggle love, because most of the time when you hear about it, it's people who have not really put in the work in relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't want to actually put in the work. So you
Mm-hmm.
have people who are like, I'm gonna throw away the whole relationship because I'm not gonna, I'm not about that struggle love life.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you because at first when I took a closer look, because I will say, okay, so let me start here. When I took a closer look, I realized that there's a lot of things that people have conflated,
Hmm.
right? So there are situations that can be labeled as struggle love, and we're going to get into what that really is and what psychology actually calls it.
Okay.
There's a word for what people are describing as struggle love, and I'm
Mhm.
going to get to that shortly. But when I took a closer look, I was just like, not really. This is just relationships. This
Right.
is just life.
Hmm.
This is what this is. And if we don't talk about this properly, you are going to be setting a lot of people up for disappointment because they are going in with expectations that are not realistic, right? They are
Right.
going into relationships with expectations that are just not realistic, right? And so then it's a setup to where our relationships are not going to last if you are going in with those unrealistic expectations, correct?
Right.
So I'm going to tell you what I thought. I'll start here and just say, first of all, let me shout out the new people that came in. Shout out to this fine specimen. Hey, boo. Okay. Shout out to Mr. Duet. Always, always it's lovely to see you. Always here to support his queen and always here to support the show. I appreciate you, brother. Um, we have Peace Quantum. Thank you for coming. Quantum. So if you want to, please come up today. You are free, sis. Inya, I know you don't do it, but you don't have to have your cameras on. As long as I see you backstage first, we are fine to go. But if you guys want to join the conversation at any time, I am going to continue to share the link. And anyone can join the panel at any time. It's Maat and I here, but we are here to just start the conversation. But we want to encourage people to come up, if they feel moved to. Okay, no pressure. So, Maat, all right. Wanted to make sure I shout out my people. Okay. Oh, I see another person come in. Hey, Lucky. Oh, I haven't seen you in a long time, sis. But I know you're back because I saw you somewhere, and I was like, okay, she back. She good. Good to see you, sis. Thanks for passing through. Like I said, feel free. The link is in the chat. Anyone can join at any time. We're going to be tackling a few of these buzzwords today. But my aunt and I are just starting it off, but it's open to everyone. Okay. All right. So, my aunt, the struggle love piece. So, I'm going to tell you what I found out in reading
Okay.
struggle love looks like. So, for one, struggle love looks like your partner is unemployed, right? That's the money aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Not act, and he or she. Okay, let me not say he and she. He is not actively seeking work, and you constantly having to help the person financially. That's one description. Set two, your partner is not willing to commit to you fully because you need to act right, and yet you stay in the relationship anyway. So you need to act right.
Act right.
I'm not wifing you until you start acting right.
Right.
But you still staying, right? And the relationship is being dragged out because it's solely based on whether or not you guys become committed, meaning married, is solely based around your behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they call in struggle love. Three, your partner can be violent, emotionally and verbally abusive, but you tell yourself you are strong and you can handle it. Okay. So I'm going to speak to that point because I am against us Black women carrying that narrative of being strong for everyone, including our men, right? Because that's the way that we've been culturally socialized. Culturally, so because I'm not going to say socialized, because socialized often your socialization comes also from the society we live in, right? And I'm going to say that culturally, as a culture, Black women are told or pushed towards the strong and independent, and to the point where a lot of our men have actually taken that on. And I have to ask the question that if you see us that way, as if we can take and carry any burden, how does that affect the way that you treat us? Because there's a psychology there, right? Psychology is connected to our behavior. So if you believe something to be true, it will affect how you act upon that said thing, right? That's just how it is. Okay. And so the partner piece, the being strong piece, I definitely see that in our community quite a bit. And it's one of those narratives, it's one of those tropes, let me say that I really wish, like in the Caribbean, they say, I wish we would dash away it, right? I wish we would just get rid of it. Because Black women deserve softness as much as any other woman on the planet.
Right.
Black woman deserves to be treated nicely and kindly and with respect and held in high regard as any other Black woman. I mean, any other woman on the planet, right? Our Blackness should not be equated to, carrying the burden of the world on our backs. So that's something I am definitely against. Okay, so I want to make that clear.
Just real quick,
Go ahead.
because I do think that as long as we keep that idea of strong Black women, we're going to constantly be having that conversation about men protecting us. Because as long as men see Black women as being quote unquote strong, they don't always feel like they need to come to our defense, as opposed to other women who are deemed to be, another one of those buzzwords, feminine, so because of the word that, when you look at what the word strong means, because there's a certain, anytime you say a word, it comes with energy, but it also comes with visuals.
Yes, yes, I agree. Thank you for injecting that, Ma'at. And we're going to get into all of that as well. That's why I said your belief, what you believe, you behave.
Hmm.
What you believe affects how you behave, right? There is no way around that. As much as people try to compartmentalize the two, not really, right? Okay, so it says number 4, your partner has been found cheating on several occasions and still keeps in contact with other women, but you become over forgiving to keep him, right? 5, struggle love means you are in an unreciprocated relationship and it is based on your partner benefiting from your actions. Now, that in a nutshell, for me, if you want to use struggle love, in a nutshell, that is the definition. Struggle love means that you are in an unreciprocated relationship and it is based on your partner benefiting from your action. Okay, this is why a lot of the conversations around relationships, when we are centering men alone, I can't get into those conversations because they are very imbalanced. And this is why I can't just fully embrace this idea of, well, men are the head. Like, it's just it's such a one-sided conversation and it centers the men only, right? And the way it's discussed, it's almost like you are here to serve me.
Hmm.
And in serving me, you are benefiting. And yet that person is the one that's gaining everything from that arrangement, right? Okay, I'm gonna pause real quick and I'm gonna make sure that I welcome M Mills. Hey M Mills, how are you? You are welcome to join the panel. We are going to continue to post the link in the chat. Anyone can join today. It's Open Friday. I think I'm going to start calling it that, Open Panel Fridays. So you are free to join, but if not, we welcome you and you can just state how you feel in the chat. But again, thanks for the support. Thank you so much. Okay. So Ma'at, number 5, no, number 6, it's 8 of them. I'm getting there. Struggle love leads women to attach their worth and validation to making their partner happy. And if they do not, they feel guilty or ashamed for it. Now, a lot of people are forcing women in this space into struggle love just by that alone, okay? Because they are using shame tactics against women to say, if you're not trying to make men happy, then you are going to be alone forever. You're going to be single forever and you're going to be a cat lady. There's a lot of shame tactics going on, right? And so then number 7, struggle love is your willingness to jeopardize all your hard work to support your partner's risky illicit lifestyle despite how this might endanger or harm you.
Yep.
And the last one is struggle love is you seeking a project in another individual in hopes to fix them. Or if you feel the individual has potential, you will go out your way to try to mold them to your expectations to a fault. So that's some of the stuff that I gathered, right?
Okay.
About struggle love. And some of it I am definitely against, right? And some of it is like, well,
Yeah.
okay. However, I'm going to tell you, when I was gathering this information, the first bias that I noticed was this was solely about women.
Mm-hmm.
Solely about women. Because I was looking at this and saying, there are men who are doing this for the woman in their life, but
Yep.
it's never called struggle love.
Mm-hmm.
We had a download recently, the Smiths, Jada and Will.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone called her a harlot, a Jezebel, a witch, everything else. But no one said anything about struggle love.
Right.
No one meant. Why? Because of the dynamics. Because it is not the man with the dysfunction here, and maybe he does. I'm saying within the context that everybody was talking about it. It wasn't the man with the dysfunction, it was the woman. So now it becomes something else. So what I'm finding is a lot of these terms are very gender focused.
Mm-hmm.
Not just racial undertones, but gender undertones. So struggle love, from my research in looking up and getting this list together here, I found that it's only struggle love when a man is in need.
Mm.
That's it. That's what I found. It's only struggle love when a man is in need. When a man is sacrificing himself so that that woman can get ahead in her plans and her vision, I don't think there's a term out there for it. Or when a man remains in a relationship where the woman is abusive on multiple levels,
Mm-hmm.
the term is, there's no term for that. No one uses struggle love, right? When a man is constantly going back to a woman who is cheating on him, no one uses the term struggle love, right? When a man is constantly being disregarded and demeaned in the relationship, and the man and he continues to stay, no one uses the word struggle love. So what I am finding is a lot of these terms are very, again, gender focused. And we're gonna get into the submission to one too, because that is very gender focused. We're gonna get into the coddling because that is very gender focused. Okay, we're gonna get into the masculine feminine dynamic because there's a lot of ignorant conversations happening about that, and I am annoyed about it because it's just a matter of doing some research.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of understanding how we are made up as far as energetic beings. It's really simple. But what happens is we latch on to certain narratives because of our own biases, right? And we pick apart certain things and extract what we want. It's confirmation bias, like I keep saying, to support whatever narrative we want to push. So in the struggle love piece, my art, it is very gender focused. This particular thing has nothing to do with men who continue to be in relationship with and support women who are nasty, who are demeaning, who are disrespectful, and who really don't love them for who they are. This particular download, this particular buzzword has everything to do with a woman supporting a man in any capacity.
Right.
What do you think about what I just said and what you just heard?
Yeah, so to me, it's, the idea of it's only struggle love because if that man is not providing, and we can go on the different levels of what the man provides, but let's just focus on the financials. Like if he can't provide financially, then we're struggling, because it goes back to a lot of things that have been said over the generations. I don't know if you ever heard this, but in the South it was like, my money is my money, but his money is my money. So it's like if he doesn't have it, then it's a struggle. So we're struggling financially, and so there you have the whole idea of struggle love. And, even on the emotional, like, because now we have the word, which is probably another buzzword, simp, right? So we call men simps who, well, we don't. Other men,
right.
other men who call men simps who stay in certain types of relationships. But then it crosses over because when a man is starting to just show love to his woman, now it's like he's a simp because he's showing love to his woman. So we have these words that show, it's kind of saying, don't even love each other.
Thank you.
Just be a provider. Just be an object. It's like we're objecting one another, but don't love one another. If you love one another through anything, then, then it becomes a negative thing. And so we have lost, what it truly means to go through. And I don't know, have we ever had it here, truly had it
Mm-hmm.
here on this soil,
Mm-hmm.
because of where we know that the root of a lot of these things come from.
Mm-hmm.
Because we only think capitalistic because that is the structure of white supremacy. So that's why we
Mm-hmm.
think that way. And
Mm-hmm.
so we're treating our relationships like business deals.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
as long as we do that, then we're going to continue to have these types of conversations,
Mm-hmm.
and over the years they just get worse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting because what you just said, you're talking about the way the way that we treat relationships is like it's very transactional.
Yeah,
Um,
business partner instead of acting
Correct,
right.
correct, correct. So you have there's another narrative being pushed where people jump onto certain talking points. So now it's this thing of marriage is a business. You
Right.
know, it's just a lot of different things that if we're not listening to what's being said and we don't have the ability to properly analyze it, right? We end
Mhm.
up getting caught up in the divisiveness of it,
Right.
right? Because what you just said is it's almost like we're not supposed to love each other.
Right.
Because oftentimes what they're calling struggle love is really just love.
Right. Right.
It's really just love because it's things that you would do for someone that you love. But I want to make sure I acknowledge a few people I saw come in. I want to make sure I said hi to Yella. Hey, Yella, how are you? Thanks for passing through and showing some support, Papa. I really appreciate it. I see 100 watts. Hey, 100 watts. How are you? Thanks for passing through and showing some love. I'm going to let you guys know as well. The panel is open today. Feel free to join at any time. I will continue to post the link in the chat for anyone that wants to join the panel. No pressure. We can see your comments either way. So if you want to stay there and just talk to us, that is fine as well. But I'm just happy to be here with you guys today. So I just want to make sure I shout out the people that were just coming in. But yeah, what I was saying is that a lot of what they're terming struggle love is just love. It's
Mhm.
just love. Like when you love someone, you make sacrifices for them, right? When you love someone, you tend to give them a little bit more grace.
Right.
You have a little bit more patience with them, right?
Mhm.
Like this is just love. And
Right.
yet we're trying to coin it into something so that we can keep the woman and the man away from each other, or the woman and the man from actually genuinely loving each other. That's really what's happening. It's like, no, you guys, you don't need to do all of that. It don't take all of that. So what's happening is an attempt to redefine love. That's
Yeah.
the best way to put that. Go
And
ahead.
I think a lot of it is rooted in pain,
Yes.
because it's like, okay, I've been hurt so much that now if the only thing I can get from you, I might not be able to get love from you, but I can get money from you.
Yes.
That's it. So, you have women who say, there's women who say, I don't even marry for love anymore. He has to have this, and this. Because, like I'm not that, and that's their whole idea. Like I'm not willing to struggle, like I'm and the whole idea of struggle love, because we've been hurt so much by each other that it's like, what can you bring to the table now? I don't care about love. I don't care about that. I don't care about what you can do for me emotionally. I want you to just tell me, what can you put on paper? Like what kind of business deal can we get going? I don't care about any of that because we've been hurt so much.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I want to make sure that I cover all of because I'm going to move on to another one as well. But I wanted to touch on, and then also too, one of the things that I'm noticing as well is that oftentimes, like all it's taken is for people to see an image of a black woman and a black man,
Mhm.
and now I'm finding that they're labeling that struggle love automatically, right? And the reason for that is because there's this idea that all black men are incels, lazy, um the non-providers.
Mm,
Okay, that's the image that is trying to be, they're trying to put out there right now. So when they see a black man with a woman, and let's say she's a well accomplished woman,
mhm.
they have no idea what he does. They have no idea the sacrifices that he's made so she can get where she has gotten to.
Right.
None. They don't even care about that. The fact that he is a black man and he is with a well accomplished woman, it's automatically assumed that this is a struggle love dynamic.
Mhm.
And we got to be careful with that narrative, right? And I'm just like, I'll be damned. I am a mother of sons who are going to grow up to be black men. You guys better take that shit somewhere else.
Mhm.
Like, go somewhere with that, because that is not all black men. And
Right.
and the reason why I say that is because in every racial group you could find that what they're describing and trying to make it seem like it's only black men.
Right.
In every racial group you will find that. So what y'all not gonna do is come for the black men that are part of the collective that I am a part of, right? And make it exclusive to them, make certain characteristics and traits exclusive to them,
Right.
when it's really just dealing with being a human being.
Yeah.
There are shitty human beings out there, period. There are human beings that don't want to provide, that don't want to protect, that don't want to do anything. And to take it and try to lump it in and make it a black man issue is a problem for me. Because what you're doing is you're creating a narrative that is going to affect my sons in the future, and my cousins and my nephews, right? And any other black man that I am connected with or not connected with. They're black men who are good fathers. And look how long they've been pushing this narrative of black men not being absent,
Right.
right? It took the I'm gonna get into my accent. I'm sorry. It took the white people them data. It took the white people them data for us to now trying to starting to change our tongue. Well, the data is out there now that black men are the most involved in their children's life because some white person said, "Oh, that narrative isn't true, guys." And now we want to jump on it and say, "Oh my gosh, it isn't true." So now when people bring it up, you have people that's throwing it in there now. Oh, well, you know what they say. You know what I'm saying? Like, come
Yeah.
on now.
Right.
So I have a problem with that. But go
And
ahead, Maya, because I'm
we're
going to share
using
something in connection to this. Go ahead.
we're using their same pseudoscience against one another. So they were using this fake pseudoscience, the shape of our heads, the shape of our nose, and all of this different kind of stuff, and saying that we were inferior because of our skin color, the way, and then we start using that same type of pseudoscience against one another. And we're doing it on both sides now.
Yes,
So
we are.
black women are now inferior, right, to other groups of women, because of this, like, and it's fake science. It's not even real, because if you really did the science, then you would know that we are magical. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's all I'm saying.
That's a good point that you just made. With the science, using it like the pseudoscience, using it against each other, where you're like, because black women are like this, they
Mhm.
are beneath other races of women, and then now the other side is because black men are like this, they are beneath other races of men. Like, we are literally imploding
Right.
as a collective. We are destroying each other from the inside out at this point. Because what we are doing is now no one has to divide or conquer. We are dividing because we've been conquered.
Mm-hmm.
It's not divide and conquer. We are literally dividing ourselves because we have been conquered.
Great point.
So I want to add this last piece in, and I'm going to move on to one of the other talking points or the other buzzwords. But I'm sure I'm going to drive this into the ground. So this is the last piece here. This is Viola Davis. And if anyone know anything about Viola Davis, if you've ever heard her talk about her story and when she first met her husband, who was trying to court her at the time, and she was just kind of avoiding him and so forth. She talks about her credit score being in the lower 500s. She was not together financially, and this man was pursuing her. Okay, he was pursuing her, and she was just. I want you guys to listen to what she says, and I want us to pay attention. Let me make sure that I can share it here before I even go into that, because I had it up and then it went away. So give me 1 second. I'll get it. Okay, right here. All right. Okay, so there it is. All right. So she's talking about her now husband. At that time he was pursuing her. But listen to what she says, and then I'm gonna finish my point around now. We're gonna move on to the next topic unless you have something to add to it, Maat, okay? Okay. Let me make sure.
What sealed the deal was he's cute.
Yeah.
And then I didn't call him for 6 weeks because I was trying to work out my bad credit. But I'm serious. I had a 500 credit score and it leveled me. I was depressed every day.
And then once you worked it out, then you called him?
No, once I knew I couldn't work it out really fast, I said, and I got lonely, I said, let me call this man.
What?
This seems like a lie detector.
That's amazing.
People just confess things here.
Yeah, bad credit.
Well, you know what? It all worked out, and I'm glad it did.
It did.
'Cause you're a great couple.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason why I show that is I wanted to drive my point even further. Can you hear me?
I want to know myself.
Oh, girl, bye. No. Let me X that out. Okay. So the reason why I wanted to show that is because I've heard her story numerous times. Like I've heard it many, many times before. And it's always applauded. And there are many other stories out there like that. The most recent one I heard that went viral was Judge Taylor was telling her story and how her husband sacrificed so that she can go across seas, to do a show, or so that she can actually become a judge. You know what I'm saying? That was a recent one. She was applauded for that, right? So it's applauds and so forth when it is the man sacrificing himself. And there's another side to this too, because I actually think a part of this, I blame patriarchy for that, right? Because when you start putting women in a certain place and say this is how you should be, and then men are supposed to do such and such, what happens is it's almost like there's a dehumanization that happens as it pertains to men. So there's some pros to that, but there's also some cons, right? And I think that has also contributed to how women treat men, right? And why something like this is applauded versus a man being the one that the woman is sacrificing for, right? Patriarchy plays a part in that as well. I just want to make that clear. But yeah, I wanted to just show that because that's one of the stories that a lot of people applaud because it's like, wow, a 500 score, credit score. So if tomorrow you got with your husband and you talk about, because there's this show called Black Love, right? People be dragging that show because they're like, this is all struggle love, right? Because it's black couples. But if you tell a story and you say, when I met my husband, he had a credit score of 500, he was living in his mama's basement, you know what I'm saying? Whatever, you know how the storyline go. People would look like, why do black women have to go through all of that just to be happy? You have to go through all this just to be happy. And it's like, yeah, but men do the same thing. But no one bats an eye. And I'm driving that point because I want us to see the imbalance so that we could discuss how we can bring everything back to balance.
Right.
Okay. So do you have anything to say to that before we move on?
I mean, if you look at most relationships, if they've been together for a good number of years, at some point it would all look like struggle love to someone. So it's just, it to me it's objective. Like it's objective. No, it's not objective. It's subjective. Like it's based on you, because someone might want someone who makes, six figures, and somebody else might want someone who just makes $50,000 a year. So, you know, to me, the struggle love is some of the other things that you said in that list, like abuse,
Yes.
dealing with disrespect,
Yes.
not getting that reciprocal exchange. That's struggle love to me. But the financial, that's up and down. Now, if somebody's not willing to work, if there's a man not willing to work, that's something else there too. But if you look at most relationships, people go up and down. It's like the stock market. So
Yeah, that's a good point. Yella says, because it's easier to scapegoat black men instead of correcting their own actions. That's a point. That's a point.
Is he
And
talking
yeah,
about?
he
Is
was
that
talking. He was
about?
talking about what we was discussing earlier.
Okay.
With focusing on, like making it seem like it's a black male issue.
Mm-hmm.
That only black male behave this way and so forth.
Okay.
I think that's what he was speaking to. Inya, don't do it. Don't encourage me, because y'all, y'all, I start using all kind of island slang up in here. Y'all be like, what the hell she talking about? Quantum said, facts, my ad. My ad be dropping them jewels. That's why she here. 100 watts agrees with you, my ad. Black woman for sure, magical. Quantum showing love again. M. Mill says, yes, we are divided against each other. Yes, we are. Yes. Jai says, if he could stick with her through that laugh, he wasn't worried about her credit score. That is not nice. That is not nice. I just want to put that out there. That is not kind. Inya says, I'm cool with whatever as long as we together. I hear you. I mean, Quantum says that. Right. Okay.
I would be curious to what 100 watts meant. He said,
which one?
He said, oh goodness, I don't see it anymore.
What was it in reference to?
He said something about he only love is only important for his seed. So
love is overrated unless you might see. Yeah, go ahead. You want to speak to that?
So I'm just curious to what he means by that. Are you saying like you don't believe in love in a relationship? That's kind of this. I'm just curious.
So 100 watts, if you're still here, clarify for the lovely Ma'at, please, and we can circle back around for sure. So I'm gonna go ahead and move the conversation forward, and we're gonna go over to the next one, which is, drum roll, please. Coddling and mothering. My aunt, I'm gonna still give you the floor for this one because something tells me you have a lot to say on this. So let me first define coddle. Okay, coddle being coddle is when people overly support someone and make excuses for their actions. They make that person the victim of their failures rather than holding that person accountable for them. So coddling is not telling people the truth about themselves. Okay. So what comes to your mind when you hear I know you've heard people say these men want to be mothered. Okay, or stop coddling we need to stop coddling black men. What comes to your mind when you hear that?
We don't know what coddling means. So based on your definition, we definitely don't know what coddling means. Because you can, and I use the word nurture. You can nurture someone with still holding them accountable. So just because I am being your emotional support does not mean that I'm not holding you accountable. We can still have the conversation. We can still talk through whatever the issues are, but that doesn't mean that I'm coddling you. So we go to the whole other end of the spectrum and we start talking down and tearing down our men because we're trying not to coddle them, because for some reason, Black men don't need to be nurtured, and it really, to me, it starts at a young age. So, Black boys start getting less nurturing than girls do. So that starts at a very, very young age. So then we grow up and we say things like, "Oh, well, this man wants to be mothered." No, maybe he just wants some nurturing. Maybe he just needs to come home and feel like his woman wants to support him in some kind of way. We don't know how to actually communicate effectively, because that's all it is. It's just effective communication. I can support you emotionally, but still hold you accountable. Those two things don't have to happen at the same time either. A lot of times we're trying to do everything at one time. You can say, okay, you need some, you need some time. We need to deal with the situation, but we don't have to deal with it all at one and all in this one moment. And so we go into full attack mode a lot of times with our men, and not being that support. And then that leads to other issues, because, sometimes cheating does not happen because of sex. It happens because they're not getting the nurturing that they need from the woman that they're with.
Okay, so you said something. I'm going to ask you one question, but I want you to let you know that what 100 watts did answer the question.
Okay.
He says love in a relationship is too fickle. People fall in and out of love for any reason under the sun. Just do what you say you're going to do. Stand by who you said you are, and the rest work itself out. So he was talking about he feels that love is too fickle.
Okay.
Okay. Did you want to respond to that? Because I was going to respond to what you said.
I don't have to respond to it. I get what he's saying.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
would talk on it, but
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
So what I was going to respond to is you use the word nurturing. Okay. And oftentimes when nurturing is often used only as it pertains to who? To children.
Right.
But the reality is to nurture something is to just care for and to encourage the growth of that particular thing. That is what nurturing is. I have plants in my home. I nurture my plants.
Right.
How? I water them. I make sure they get the sunlight they need, right? Because I am doing what? I am encouraging the growth of that thing. I am caring for and encouraging the growth of my plants.
Right.
That is simply, when you break it down, what nurturing is. But like I said, what happens to us is that I read a book that says we don't see with our eyes, we see with our minds. In other words, your mind projects the image out. So if you see something and, okay, let me give you an example. Let me see. A well-dressed, I'm going to use a positive, a well-dressed man. And this is all connected. They call this the halo effect, right? Where because someone has money and resources and they present well and they're well-dressed, we automatically think or equate it to them being a good person. That's what they call the halo effect, right? This is why we have things like so-called pretty privilege and so forth, because there are certain things that certain words, certain descriptions evoke in our minds. So right away when we hear nurturing, we go to, well, that's for children. That's for children. So we never seek to either find the etymology of words out or even find the real definition of words. A lot of us are taking on redefined words, right? And we're taking that into our minds, and it's evoking certain images to us. So when we hear nurture, the image that comes to our mind is what? A mother-child dynamic. So when you use the word nurture, I was going to say, well, should we be a nurturing to adults? Are we really talking about nurturing? But when you break it down, to what nurturing really is, nurturing is just to care for and to encourage the growth of a particular thing.
Right.
So my aunt, you never stop growing. I never stop growing. So if you and I are connecting on a friendship level, I will hope that you would want from me nurturing.
Mm-hmm.
And I would want from you nurturing. So
Right.
why is it different in relationships? Again, there's a specific gender agenda at play. There's an anti-man. We could go low, we could just narrow it down to anti-black man agenda at play. And we have to be careful and pay attention. Otherwise, we are perpetuating it and we are participating in that agenda, right? And to our own demise. So when you just said nurturing, I'm like, yeah, we don't use the word nurturing, but that's technically what you're doing. When you speak life into your husband, my aunt, that is nurturing him.
Right.
When he is feeling broken down and you do something nice or kind, you run him some bath water, you massage his back, you just talk nicely to him. You know what I'm saying? You maybe you cook his favorite meal, whatever that is nurturing.
Can I get in there?
Yes, go for it, Mama.
Because when you brought up nurturing your plants, it made me think of the word nature and nurture. And it is in our nature to need that. We need to be nurtured, just like a plant needs to be nurtured. And when you look at the etymology of nurture, it means nourishment. It means to feed, so that's why a lot of times it does get linked to children, but
Yes.
you don't stop nourishing. Is that word nourishing?
Yes.
Giving nourishment to your spouse or to someone who's older. And just like you said, like if we have a friendship, that's how your friendship, your relationship blossoms, because you are constantly giving that person the nourishment that they need to feed, to grow, to evolve. So that is very important that we stop using the wrong words here. Coddling. I don't coddle my husband because he knows that I'm going to hold him accountable just
Exactly.
like he's gonna hold me accountable. And holding someone accountable is still a level to giving them that nurturing they need, but you can do it in a way that's going to help. You can either tear that person down or you can build them up. But
I think that there are people who coddle. But I don't know that it's not intentionally. It's not intentionally. It is I think oftentimes it's attached to some sort of childhood trauma that they have.
Yeah.
It's usually attached to fear of rejection, the need to be loved.
Right.
So which actually goes back to the struggle of peace that we talked about earlier. Oh, and I wanted to say to the coddling, the struggle of peace, like psychology calls that codependency. That's the term for it. It's codependency, right? And it has nothing to do with the color of anyone's skin at all, or even anyone's gender. I want to make that clear. Anyone can be a codependent individual. And that's why I wanted to make sure. I'm just like, we have to really dissect these things and be careful what we're participating in and the bandwagons that we're jumping on, because it's easy to get caught up in, in the wave of certain trends and buzzwords and so forth. It's very easy, especially if you don't know how to swim. You're just going to be taken by every current, every wave that comes, you're going to go with it because your ass can't swim anyway. And swimming in this context means you cannot think critically for yourself.
Right.
That's what I mean by swimming. So the coddling and the mothering piece, I know that there are people who do that, right? Where you are afraid. But here's the funny thing.
There's people who coddle their children.
Yes. And there are women who coddle each other.
Yeah.
Big time. When you guys say that we don't hold each other accountable, that is coddling. That is coddling. When you don't want to check your girlfriend when she's wrong, when you don't want to check her so that she can grow through that correction, that is coddling. We do it to each other. Men do it to each other too. When men could just say whatever they want around you and be disrespectful to women, to black women, and all you do is like, well, that's his opinion and all of these other, that is coddling.
Right.
It is not gender specific. It is not race specific either. Okay, so I saw someone new come in. I want to make sure I acknowledge them. Danique, he said, hey, Danique Anthony said, running back water massage. And even trying to get canceled. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I really don't see how we are getting caught up in mistreating each other. How are we celebrating mistreating each other? How are we celebrating treating each other in the most mediocre, with the most mediocrity, in the most mediocre way? Why are we celebrating that? Why aren't men deserving of good treatment? Why is it just reserved for us? What is that about? We're going to just mule men into the ground then. We're going to just utilize them until they are no good and then do what? Discard of them? But isn't that what you guys say is being done to women? So where's the balance? Where's the balance in that? So I wanted to touch on the coddling piece, Ma'at, and the mothering, because that's a big one that's happening in these streets, in these conversations. Inya says reciprocity. Absolutely. I want us to talk more about reciprocity. Okay. Inya says, because we don't believe in our work, we look at ourselves so poorly. I agree. It is not the black woman that the black man hates. The black man hates his own reflection. And it is not the black man that the black woman hates. She hates her own reflection. And you remind her of her, and he reminds you of you. That's all. That's all it is that's happening. It's a self. It's at the core of it. It's at the core of it. It's poor racial esteem. It's very low racial esteem at the core of it. We're gonna deny it all we want because we really believe that when people go out and they dress nicely and they acquire nice things and they contribute to black organizations and HBCU, that somehow that means that they don't have low racial esteem, or that means that they have no self-hate. We got to go a little deeper than that. So yes, anything else on coddling before we move on, Ma'at?
The one thing that comes to mind is the whole idea of mothering versus fathering. Because if you talk about mothering in a relationship, it looks vastly different than someone saying, oh, well, you're trying to be my, you're trying to be my daddy. Like you you don't hear it as often, but sometimes you do hear that word, but it looks different. Because when someone is in a relationship and they say, like, and the woman says that you're trying to act like my dad or like my daddy, then that's more of you're trying to boss me around as far as opposed to mothering, which is more of a nurturing thing.
Yeah, and I think that might have to do with like the dynamics between like the difference in men and women. Kind of like, right. It's technically it's not the same thing. But I think it's just the way that men show up and women show up in those particular roles. And then if people feel like those roles are being translated into the a couple relationship, then if it's showing up in the same capacity. But I think actually a lot of those qualities are transferable, right? Meaning that they should actually show up in your relationship with your partner. And it doesn't necessarily, because it's not, certain things are not reserved for the mother role and the father role. Right? Like it's not reserved just for those roles. Exactly. So that's why I say it is transferable. Like it can be transferred to other aspects of your life. Right? Let me see. I see Tiffany just came in the room. Hey, Tiffany. Thanks for joining us. Again, I am going to post in the comment section again the link. Again, if you want to come up, feel free. It's Ma'at and I are having a conversation, but all are welcome to join us. Thanks for supporting as usual, Tiff. Okay, Ma'at, I'm gonna move on. You
Okay.
good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Ma'at, this one bothers me, Ma'at. This one bothers me. This one eats at this one eats at me, Ma'at. This one, these conversations in these look who we have here with us. I just saw you. I'm adding you now, sis. Yay! Yeah. I know.
Hi, ladies. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine. Nice to finally speak to you, Hanifa. Hear your voice. Mayat, you know me and you, girl. So, I just want to say that this conversation is hitting the spot right now because it's like you spoke about this on Sean's channel. I believe it was Sunday, and it's all coming together. So this is really helping me right now, and I also think that reciprocity has to be learned. That we have to learn how to show each other that, because for so long we've been showing that to other people that don't look like us, that we don't even know how to give it to each other. So when we try it seems foreign and it's weird, but it don't have to be like that. So I strongly believe that once we learn to do it, that we will be powerful, once we actually start seeing each other, and really loving each other. So that's all I wanted to share.
Thank you. Are you gonna stay with us or you want to drop down? Whatever you want to do.
I'm probably gonna drop down because my children back here, kind of loud. So I'm probably gonna just drop back down in the chat. But if I hear something that I like, I'll come back up hopefully. Okay.
Yes, and thank you. I actually feel honored that you came up here with us. I am so honored. Thank you, Inya.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Don't make me cry today. Don't make me cry today. Okay. I'm glad I could support, and y'all just keep doing what y'all doing because it's helping. Trust me.
Thank you. All right, we'll be here if you want to come back.
All right. Bye, guys.
Okay. Bye-bye. Okay, so oh my gosh, I'm so honored that Inya, Inya stays in the comment section, my art.
Yeah.
So this one is a big one for me and it bothers me. And I think you know that because we've had many, many conversations around this. And I think that it's such a major misunderstanding about the feminine and masculine principles, right? So I just want to say this to begin. These are not gendered principles. I repeat, for the people in the back, way in the back, these are not supposed to be gendered. They're just not in the way that we're doing it. Okay. All right, so I am going to bring something up right quick and then we're going to discuss this, Ma'at. So let me share my screen for this one. Let's see. Share my screen. Bada boom, boom, boom. Bada boom, boom. Okay. All right. Can you guys see that? It didn't come up yet. Oh, there it is. Okay. So you probably can't see this well. So I'm going to go over it. So you have on one side, it says feminine qualities, right? And then on the other side, it says masculine qualities. So on the feminine side, it has qualities like receptive, passive, contractive, intuitive, inward. Okay. And then on the masculine, it has terms like qualities like projective, active, given, expansive, outward. Okay. Then the natural feminine, we have unconditional love, understanding, nurturing, which we just talked about, tenderness, kindness, intuition, creative, feeling. Stillness, flow, radiance, surrender, sensitivity, emotional ease, and allowing, right? That's the natural feminine. And so you have the natural masculine. I'm using this as a guide, right, for this conversation. The natural masculine, we have confident, protection, inner strength, clarity, responsibility, boundaries, focus, courage, logical, discipline, support, capable, stability, certain, direction, and assertive. Then they go into what they call the wounded feminine and the wounded masculine. And I want you to listen to this because we're seeing a lot of this. The wounded feminine is a victim. The wounded feminine is powerless, weakness, manipulation, withholding, neediness, codependency, which is the word I just said. When we're talking about struggle love and coddling and so forth, we're talking about codependency, which falls under the wounded feminine. And then we have oversensitive and over emotional. Then you get to the wounded masculine. You have perpetrator, confrontational, abuse of power, okay, criticism, dominance, submit to me because I have a penis, I am the man, I'm in charge. Wounded masculine, aggression, abuse, avoidance, control, unsupportive, and competitive for no daggone reason. And last but not least, unstable. Okay? Now, that's some of the qualities of both of them. Okay? So, I'm going to bring this down because we have another person that just came up to the panel. Oh, no. Actually, I thought it was somebody else, but no, it's not. All right. So, Ma'at, here is my issue with that. So, some of the things I just went over, right? I'm going to say 100% of us. Yes, I am saying 100%. Because people play it safe and be like, well, 95. No, 100% of us possess all of these things in us at any given time. At any given time. It is not reserved for one gender. It is not reserved for one gender, people. So what's happening in these circles is people will pull up a chart like the one I just pulled up, right? And this is how they're going to read the chart, Ma'at. Listen to this. Under the feminine qualities, they're going to be like, well, women are supposed to be nurturing. Women are supposed to be tender and kind. Women are filled with feelings. Women are emotional, right? Then on the masculine, they're going to say men are protective, men are strong, men are responsible, men. Not the masculine and not the feminine. They start speaking to genders. And this is where it gets messy. That's where it gets messy. Once you start saying, you're taking these principles and you assigning them to a gender. So now we have people saying, this is how men are supposed to be. And this is how women are supposed to be. And so what we don't realize is we are pushing for imbalance in each other.
Right.
We are pushing for imbalance in each other. We're saying women are to be imbalanced. And we are saying men are to be imbalanced. That's what that's what we're saying when we do that. Because here's the reality. When it comes to these particular principles, and I'm going to let you come in. I'm a little passionate about this one, okay? When it comes to these particular principles, okay? Creativity. Let's start with that one. Are you trying to tell me that there are no creative men that exist?
Right.
I live with one. I live with a creative. I know other men who are creatives. We know artists. We know musicians. These are people who are creative. We know people who are painters. We know men who are artists, and no one speaks to that. And yet one of the things under feminine principles is creativity. Intuition, intuitive,
Right.
emotional. I've seen some of the most emotional men I have ever come in contact with in my life in these social media spaces. And still, they are the ones up there talking about, no, women are emotional. Sir, you are emotional. You just don't realize that anger is an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
All of us can be, and by the way, throughout the day, at some point today, you tapped into your masculine,
right,
as well as your feminine.
Right.
You did, because we do it without realizing that that's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
When you have to get down to your children level, men, are you going to tell me that men do not nurture? Is that what we're saying? We're saying that men cannot nurture their children, men cannot love their children in the same capacity that women can? Is that really what we're pushing here? So when we're doing this, we are dehumanizing each other, and we are actually creating a split within ourselves, an imbalance. And I'm going to keep saying, imbalance equals sickness. If you are not balanced, you are sick.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a bunch of imbalanced people, sick people walking around, because now you have women leaning too heavily on their so-called feminine, which to me is really their wounded feminine, because they're afraid of showing any sense of masculinity. But ma'am, I hate to break it to you. If you think I should get up, you are in your feminine at that point. But once you get up to do what you think you should do, you are operating in your masculine, because the masculine is active. You need your masculine energy to do things, to see things through, to bring your visions to manifestation. You need your masculine to do that. Same thing with men. When you sit down and you talk about manifesting, and you thinking deeply about things, and you have a vision for yourself, and you give birth to whatever that vision is, sir, you have to tap into your feminine for that. And it doesn't make you gay, because I think that's what a lot of you guys are afraid of. This has nothing to do with homosexuality, nothing at all. So my aunt, I know you can hear it. I'm so frustrated about this conversation. It drives me insane. But before I let you go, I am going to acknowledge. I'm going to bring it down and acknowledge the people that just came in. Natasha, I see you. Thank you so much for passing through. Thank you for your support. Okay. Oh, Quantum, listen, you have no idea how I feel. Listen, my aunt is probably the one person that knows how I feel about this topic. There's so much misinformation in this space about this, and on the internet. It is so disgusting, and it's an insult to the masculine principles that exist in all of us, and it's an insult to the feminine principles that exist in all of us. It is ridiculous, and I am sick of us pushing for, right? Or pushing for imbalanced human beings. I'm sick of that, because that's essentially what we're doing without realizing that. So yes, I'm very passionate about this. All right, so my aunt, I'm gonna let you go, girl, because I'll go all day on this one. Go ahead, mama. What you gotta say?
So the problem is how we view the words. And someone has told us that these words are negative, that they can be used negative. So we have men who say you're being too masculine, or we'll have, someone saying to a man, you're being feminine. And so we're just using these words as insults instead of actually, I don't even think we even have to use the words. We can use the characteristics that come with these words. So, when you talk about creative, like femininity, creativity being a feminine characteristic. So if you say someone is creative, you don't necessarily have to call them You don't have to say, oh, you're using your feminine energy. You just say creative. Chaos is a part of creativity. Anybody who is a creative knows that chaos is a part of that. That is a feminine aspect. That is necessary. Chaos is necessary. If you are a creative, you know that that chaos is necessary to get that piece of art, to get that piece of music, to whatever, that writing, whatever it is. The chaos has to happen. But what do you use to balance it, to put it in order? You use your masculine energy to put it in order. One of the best things that you can even study to actually understand this is creation itself, creative life itself. Creating life has to have feminine and masculine energy, and it's always interchanging at the same time. So when that child is in that womb, it is not just feminine energy inside of that womb. It is masculine energy taking root, ordering, because without the order of that fetus, it will not be born. So we have to understand the characteristics that go with that. You can throw the feminine and masculine word completely and totally away and just say the characteristics that you are. Tap into your logic. You don't have to say tap into your masculinity. Just say use your logic. You don't have to say tap into your to your feminine and be just say use some emotion. We need some emotion with that. There is no creativity without emotion, but there is also no end to that. There's no ending product without the logic and the order that puts it into place. So when we talk about balance, we're talking about all of it. And we need to start understanding how to utilize it. And we need to expand our vocabulary. If we expand our vocabulary, then we won't have to use feminine and masculine. We can use all the words in the dictionary and understand what those words, what it actually means to exhibit those characteristics, those traits, because when we learn how to actually utilize those within ourselves, then that's how we have an amazing relationship with other people, in the people in our lives, and we start really understanding what it takes to have a lasting relationship, and stop using these words against one another, because we're not using them positively. We're not saying, hey, tap into your masculinity, woman. You're not saying that. You're just saying, hey, woman, you being too masculine. So it's, and we're, okay.
Girl, I share your sentiments, and you know it. You know it, girl. It is so frustrating. And by the way, even when I was doing this, because again, these are just buzzwords that we are kind of like breaking down, and why we really need, like my aunt said, just get rid of some of this stuff. Like really, expand your vocabulary, right? And get under what I'm finding, even in what you just said, my aunt. I'm finding that a lot of these words, you got to peel back the layers. Like, for example, struggle love is the newer term, but before struggle love, there was the ride or die chick, right? So the terms just keep evolving. Yeah. But I think if we peel back, we will probably find that some of these issues were being discussed, like when our great-great-grandparents were alive, right? We'll find that if we start to really peel back, but oftentimes we're not, because we're so surface-based in our thinking. And in our analysis. And I don't know how you could be surface-based in an analysis, because the very essence of analyzing something is to go deeper than the surface. Right. But the way that we look at stuff is so surface-based and so lazy. Just kind of want to go with the flow, and so we're missing the opportunity to really unpack a lot of these things. So even when I was pointing the feminine versus masculine, even the idea of verses is a problem. Even the idea of the verses piece of this is a problem. There is no verses. There's no feminine versus masculine. Right. Because different doesn't mean that we are automatically in opposition. Right? These two exist in harmony within nature, and you being a part of nature, it exists in you. There will be no creation without the harmonious flow of the feminine and masculine. Right. Women talk about their wombs all the time. I need some of these men to start talking and praising their seed, because there can be no creation without your seed. And for you, woman, yes, You need him to create life. And he needs you to create life. The feminine needs the masculine so that creativity can flow the way it's supposed to flow. Nothing is created without these two principles working together. And that, you know what that means too? You cannot exist as a human being that is nature without these two principles working with each other. I talked about it started from where? In the womb. In the womb. We need to expand not just our vocabulary, but our consciousness. We don't even need to go deeper. We need to go higher. We need to start tapping into the cosmos about a lot of these things. We need to ask for an aerial view because things look better when you're further up. When you are on a plane and you look around and you go up in the air, that view looks completely different.
Right.
And that's what a lot of us need to start tapping into. The higher parts of ourselves so that we can see a little bit more clearly, so that we don't get caught up in this nonsense. There is no verses. Feminine cannot be against masculine. Masculine cannot be against feminine. And if you think that you're feminine and you are against the masculine principle, my dear, I am sorry to inform you, but you are operating in what they are calling the wounded feminine. Some people call it the shadow feminine. We hear a lot about shadow work. Same thing with masculine. If you think that you are superior to the feminine and therefore you should be centered, you are operating from a wounded masculine. And they call that the shadow masculine as well.
All right.
So we got to be careful about that. These things work together in nature and they work together within all of us. Like my aunt said, we use these terms, right? But before there were even these terms, these principles still existed. Right? And so now the terms have taken on a certain connotation. So to tell a man that he has feminine energy within him is almost to offend him today. And look at what's happening to the woman. The only form of masculinity that they know is to talk back. Right? To not be agreeable. To be argumentative. And yet the masculine is so much more than that.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So we've picked certain aspects of both of these, and now we are turning them against each other. And those of us who know better, we have to speak up in the name of the feminine and masculine. Those of us who know that the rhetoric and the talking points that are being driven around these two things, we have to speak up because it's an insult to nature. And if it's an insult to nature, it is an insult to your existence because you are an extension of nature. So I'm gonna leave that there, but you know I had to touch that one because there's a lot of bullshit going on out here, my aunt, and it is frustrating. And as somebody who consider themselves to be very spiritual and who learns a lot, not necessarily from books or teachings, but from sitting with the divine within me, who receive downloads and information as I desire them, I have to say something about it. Stop insulting nature with these conversations because it's very reductionist. You guys are reducing nature to certain talking points just so that you can insult each other. It is ugly and it is embarrassing. Right. And we got to do better in that department. Before I move on to the last one. You're going to love this one. Do you have anything else to say to this particular topic?
No, I think we said it all.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. Alrighty. So let's go to the last but not least. Drum roll. What do you think it is, my aunt?
I don't know why I didn't know that you. Okay.
You should have known I was coming because here's the thing. Remember, the topic today is buzzwords that keep us divided.
And this is a big one. It's been buzzing for many, many years.
This is a big one. And again, we are talking, what we're doing is really just breaking down the misinformation, right? And speaking to the balance that is necessary around these particular topics, that the balance that's missing around these particular topics. So submission, this is not my favorite one, Maad. I'm just gonna be honest. And I know it's not because I do not exist within a certain paradigm. I don't subscribe to a certain religious ideology. And so a lot of what the word submission is attached to, I am very detached from. So I have a hard time talking about it because I tend to be an outlier when it comes to this. I tend to be in the minority when it comes to this particular topic. So I'm going to let you start. Okay. Submission. What? Okay, tell me what you think submission is, and tell me what you think we are misinformed about as it pertains to submission.
Well, we did a show about submission, and when it comes to submission, I try to be careful with it because I know some people, they believe in submission. And like I've said before, submission has not been a topic in my marriage. We've had fights, we have arguments, and my husband has never said, be more submissive, woman, so I think that when it comes to submission and what it actually is, I'm very careful with the words that I use because I believe that words carry energy. So and I've said this before on my channel, when you look at the etymology of submission and what it means, it's like this, the power, somebody being of a higher authority than you, you being subjugated to this person and things like that. So I look at, and I say this all the time, I'm always about balance in a relationship. And so if we use the current term of submission, then, we could say that we submit to each other on a daily basis. You submit to your kids at times. You submit to, there's plenty of people submitting to, I'll just say there, I'll be nice. There's certain people submitting to their employers, so, there's a lot of quote unquote submission and how we use it today, because words tend to change depending on the current climate. But I always like to go with what the energy of a word. So I personally am not going in the word and how it is, the actual word, I'm not going to submit, but there are times when I know that I have to, I have to back off because this is not my thing. And so my husband will lead certain things, but then there's times when he's like, okay, this, you got this. So, I will, lead certain things. Now, when it comes to the household, I believe in a man's strength. I believe in a man's ability to, I'll admit I can be an emotional person. So I believe in my husband's ability to be more logical than I am at times and things like that. So, I believe in those things. That's why I say words, like when we go back to the feminine and the masculine, those are just words. So what do we can use other things. We don't have to say submission. To me, it just comes from this whole idea of religion and what it meant. You took the woman out of spirituality. And so what does that mean when you take the woman out of spirituality? You take away her power, you take away her ability to evolve. You take all of those things away. So when we look at these words such as submission, we look at someone being lesser than. And that's the etymology, lesser, to yield to. You're yielding to something higher than yourself. But when you look at balance, what does balance actually mean? It does not always mean that one person is, you're on the same level. You just have different strengths. So my strengths are going to help my family in a certain way, just like my husband's strengths are going to help my family as well. So, I don't use the word submission. And I also feel that men who tend to use the word submission, it's a reason behind them using that word, because men who they're secure and who they are, they don't have to use that word. They don't have to go around saying, woman, submit to me. It's something that I just think, but I also think it comes from whatever your religious affiliation is, because that is preached heavily in the Christian church. I can't speak. I was a Christian at one point, so I only speak to that, but that's preached heavily in the Christian church. So, I remember many sermons on submission growing up. So, that's something that as we have come into, and I think I started to text you. So another buzzword that came to mind was traditional and modern women. So, when you have the whole idea of like being a traditional woman and a modern woman, it's that idea that traditional women were submissive and modern women are not submissive.
Those are the traditional and modern was two I should have added to the blasted list too. Because that's a whole nother conversation. But I agree with you on that one, because at least what I'm hearing from you throughout the conversation to Ma'at is that a lot of these words don't even necessarily need to be mentioned. Right? They need to be acted upon. The principles or the thing that is the definition that is attached to the word just need to be acted out. It need to be actualized versus us just walking around submit. And I do agree with you. I think that men who are out here thumping their chests, and I am man, hear me rah, and submit, they got some other issues going on. Right? Because I think men who are secure in who they are and they just show up as being themselves, here's the thing. If they have certain qualities that a woman does not possess and she has to lean on them for that, she will submit to it. Right? So it's as simple as, okay, I know my man is handy around the house. Okay, and there is a light that needs to be changed out, or I want to switch out the ceiling fans. Now, can I probably do it myself? Yes, but am I the best person for the job? No. And so therefore, me going and asking my spouse, right, to put that ceiling fan in is me submitting to the fact that he is better at it than me. It's very simple, by the way.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
It's very simple. And like you say, all of us are especially if you're working these jobs, men and women, y'all are submitting every day. Some men are going to work and they're submitting to women who are their bosses. Because when you talk about supervisor or CEO or whatever, what it's saying is that that person occupies a role that is superior to your role. And so therefore you have to submit to their role, their authority, because in every workplace there is a hierarchy.
Right.
Okay. So if once a hierarchy exists, I think this is where the submission piece comes in. Okay. I just don't necessarily believe, and I know this is going to blow some smoke up some people's ass here. I just don't believe in hierarchies in relationship in the way that it's discussed. Because once you start talking about hierarchy, you are talking about superiority. And I do not believe in that for relationships. I believe in respect. I believe in mutual respect. I believe in honoring each other's strengths, right? And challenging each other to work on their so-called weaknesses, right? I believe in that. I believe in a mutual respect and a mutual submission to each other. Because here's the thing. When you come as a man, and I'm just going to use it as an example, this is not to say that all men are bad with finances, so please don't take it that way. When you come as a man and you say, you admit, I'm not the best at finances, but my wife went to school for finance and business, and she's in the home, okay? And she is better at this than I am. There are women out there who are better in dealing with the stock market than their husbands are. It is you coming to her and say, baby, I really respect your skill set in this area, right? I honor your strength, right, to be able to do this particular thing. And so therefore, I am asking you to do this for me and for our family. You are submitting to her, to that, not necessarily even her, but to that gift or that strength, right, or that skill set that she possesses.
Mhm.
We do this throughout our relationships over and over. So I don't even know. The reason why I don't subscribe to the submission piece is because it has a very religious connotation to it
Yeah.
that I do not subscribe to. I do not subscribe to the Christian ideology. I do not exist in that paradigm. I do not even think in that capacity. And I also know, as you were a Christian, I also know how much the women have kind of been cast aside within the Christian doctrine. Okay, once you gender God, we can start there.
Yep.
Once you gender God, and your God is only a he, everything else that comes after that, and everything else that God pushes is going to be one-sided. I don't subscribe to that. I don't think that God is gendered in that way. I don't think that God is just he or she. I think he's all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Or it is all of it. Because even me, I have that residual of he.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's starting there. And then you get into the other aspects of it. Your Holy Trinity. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Now, since the feminist movements and all of that type of stuff, you've heard people start coming in and saying, oh, well, the Holy Spirit is the feminine aspect, is the divine feminine. And I said to that, look at who they made the divine feminine to be. She's still invisible.
Mm-hmm.
They gave her the ghost status. But for a long time, that Holy Trinity was man, man, man. Man, man, man. Right? Just one big male or spiritual orgy. I hope I don't offend anyone today, but I'm just going, I have to get this out. Okay? So I don't exist in that paradigm. I don't. It's an insult to me as a woman. So I no longer subscribe to it. Was I there at one point? Yes. And if you pay attention, a lot of women who are in Christianity are very male-centered for that very reason.
Yeah.
Everything is about the man. The man is centered. The man is held above everything else. The man is superior. And because I don't subscribe to that, and I know that the submission that we are discussing is very much rooted in that, I have a problem with submission in that context. But like you said, all of us do it in some capacity, Ma'at. We just don't call it submission.
Right.
But the submission that we often discuss, particularly in these spaces, is rooted in the Christian doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though a lot of us are not Christians, we were raised in that.
Right.
And so we still follow a lot of the teachings, a lot of the ideology. We still have it with us. And so even though we're not Christian, we probably haven't even been to church in God knows forever. We go once a year, which is Easter. Okay? Even though we're doing that, we still push strongly. Well, the man is the head. And so you get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And because I don't exist in that paradigm, it's hard for me to really dive into these submission conversation because I tend to be the oddball out.
Right.
Because I don't see the man above me or below me. I do not see the man as above me or below me. I see that the man possesses certain things that I do not possess. And I see that I possess certain things that he do not possess. And I see that if we come together, then we can see the whole picture. And it's the healthiest thing for everybody involved.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so the submission piece is triggering for a lot of people. It does not trigger me. I have no emotional attachment to it. None. None. Like people say trigger black woman. I'm like, no, it trigger black women who, when they listen to y'all talk about it, the images that's attached to it, because you talk about words carrying energy. Submission in the
Well, get this.
Go ahead, mama.
What triggers black men is when you say they're submitting to white men, right?
Right.
So it's that same thing, because you said gendered God, but they have not only gendered God, they have also given God a race.
Yes.
So what does that do to the psyche of
Yes.
all black people? So, we can go on many different levels with the
Yes.
submission piece, because I think a lot of times when we have these conversations in these black spaces, black men feel so strongly about submission because they have been submissive. So at least I need someone to be submissive to me. So, we have to like really dissect what we mean when we are talking about submission, and is that even something that we need to have successful relationships? I can say no, because it hasn't. And we were Christians when we got married.
Right.
But submission was still not a point of conversation in our relationship. Maybe it's because we were so young. I don't know. But it just wasn't a conversation that he wasn't walking around saying be submissive, and I will say that I'm from Louisiana, So there's a certain aspect that's kind of like, women from Louisiana do, but it's still like there wasn't a point of conversation. So like it doesn't trigger me when somebody says women need to be submissive. I know my man at home ain't saying that, so it don't bother me, but I can talk about it because I think we have to understand the reasoning behind why we're saying certain things and why we feel certain things. No matter what you believe, no matter what your religion is, we are not far removed. Nobody's far from removed from Christianity, no matter what they practice in this country, because that is the religion that the white supremacists chose. Like that's what the white supremacy doctrine chose Christianity as a religion. So you can barely go anywhere without it being tied to it and you having that gendered God, that white God in your head. If I say Jesus, there's a certain image that comes to your mind. It doesn't matter what you believe. And if you've never been to church, you still have that image in your mind. And that is really tied to us women because there is a hierarchy there. And that hierarchy at the top is always that white God. That's the hierarchy at the top. If you're going to choose to have hierarchy, if we're going to choose to talk about hierarchy, that's at the top. And so black men, they want to fall somewhere above the black woman.
That's a good point, Maat. That's a very good point. And I think one of the things that I actually have been thinking about a lot is that I think the reason why the word triggers a lot of black women. Okay, so I strongly believe in ancestral DNA, right? And one of the things that I am thinking, like the way when I watch this play out, and this is specifically to black women, I think that it evokes an image that most black women do not believe in. So, you know how you subscribe to a certain religion, and then there are certain things in that religion that you really don't believe, even though you regurgitate it. But really, when you check at your core, you don't believe it. Right? So if I'll give you an example. A lot of Christians really don't believe there's an issue with premarital sex because they're having it outside of marriage.
Right.
Oh, they're busting it down in the church. Y'all could tell them I said that. They're busting it down in the church because I was busting it down in the church. No, and I'm being honest. A high percentage of Christians don't, when I say, and I want y'all to understand what I mean by believe, at their core, not what they say out of their mouth. Because what you believe at your core is what you act upon. What you believe in your core is what you do when nobody's looking. That's really how you know what somebody believes. What you believe in your heart is what you focus your energy towards. It's what you spend your money on. Right? Like they say, out of the abundance of the heart, what's the scripture? Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So when somebody says something about you and they say, well, I was only joking. Not really.
No, that wasn't you. There was some truth to that. Yeah.
So you have to look at what we do. And I'm not going to say what people, I'm going to include myself in people. You got to look at what people do, because that is where you're going to find their core beliefs. So I give the example of, I'm going to say it again and I don't care. Most Christians do not believe that premarital sex is wrong. And that's why they are busting it down in the church. Right? So I connected to what I'm saying is, I don't believe majority of Black women, Christian or otherwise, believe, right, that men, and I'm going to go ahead and say Black men, are superior to them. Because submission in the context and in the way they talk about it requires that you believe that the person you are submitting to has some sort of superiority to you.
Right.
Most Black women, I don't care what they say out of their mouth, look at what they do. They do not believe it. They just don't. And I'm talking about even people in the church. Because you have church women that are nasty as hell to their husbands. And they are straight up running the relationship and they are dominating the relationship. And it is their Bible that says Christ is the head of the church. Then the man. Then the woman. Then the lovely children. That is their Bible.
Yeah.
And yet they are still treating their men like children. Right? On their way to Bible study, cussing his ass out in the car. Right? Why? Because at their core, they don't believe in that doctrine. So right now in these spaces, what's happening is, and I could see right through it because I can read energy just fine. A lot of the women who are subscribing to the red pill narrative, talking points, they don't believe that shit. They are regurgitating it because they are desperate to be wives. It is the wife status that they are seeking. They do not care about what they're talking about. They are afraid, and I think I share this with you, of not being loved, of not being chosen. They have bought into the scare tactics of dying alone.
Right.
And so now I'm going to act like I believe in this, but you have to watch them, right? That's how you know what we believe at our core. What we believe at our core, we will always act upon. And so I think majority of women, and I'm going to speak to Black women, do not think that men are superior to them. And we need to ask why. And we need to talk about that, right? Because here's the thing. There was such a thing as matriarchy existing, right? Women had certain roles of status. I'm talking about our ancestors back over there on the continent. Okay? And this is before the northern kingdoms, right? Northern kingdoms start coming on, the Aryans and so forth started coming in with their paradigm and their doctrine of male domination and male superiority. And that entered into the culture of our people. Actually, it was quite violent. Okay? We've had goddesses forever in our cultures.
Right.
They've always existed. In fact, goddesses were worshipped way before there was a male god to worship. Before people actually started making God a he, God was always seen as a divine feminine. Don't get me started. The history is there. And so here's what I say to that. Maybe there's something to that black woman. Maybe you guys have adopted a foreign doctrine and it's going against your nature because something in you know it not to be true. Something in your DNA is whispering to you, no, the man is not above you and you are not above him. You guys are partners, just like the masculine principles and feminine principles are in partnership in nature. That is how it's supposed to be. Goddesses have always existed. Always. Don't make me start calling out the names. Always existed. This is not anything new to our culture. The issue with us is that we've adopted a foreign culture. We've assimilated into somebody else's reality. We are living up to somebody else's dream. And because we have no knowledge of self, and knowledge of self is knowing yourself on a DNA level, on a cellular level, on an ancestral history level. Because your ancestors and these principles and these teachings existed well before slavery. So to get the fullness of it, you're going to have to push past this slavery paradigm. You're going to have to push through that because the information is there waiting for you. So black woman, maybe there's something to it in you that's saying this is foreign to who you are as a woman. Because you are not meant to feel inferior. You are not meant to be a second-class citizen in anybody's kingdom. You are not meant to be the footstool to anyone. And you are not to dominate the masculine, because in nature the feminine principle do not dominate the masculine principle, and the masculine principle does not dominate the feminine principle. We are the only idiots out here trying to do that, and we're going against nature. So that's how I've been thinking about it these days, Ma'at. That may be something in your DNA. And that's why your behavior doesn't align with what you're saying. You are saying that the men are the head. But the reason why you're not acting like it is because your DNA and your history, your ancestral history says otherwise. And this is not a slight to men. This is not a slight to men, Ma'at. It is not.
Right. It's a compliment.
It is a
complimentary.
It is complimentary.
Right.
Yes. And when I speak like this, the reason why I'm speaking like this right now is because it is time for those of us who know what we know to bring the balance into these conversations. These conversations are one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
And it is creating an unhealthy relationship between the masculine and the feminine that exists in both of us. And the reason why we are seeing such an imbalance in our relationships is because we are imbalanced in our beings. Because a woman who does not acknowledge her masculine and feminine within her, she cannot properly partner with a man.
Mm-hmm.
And a man who can't acknowledge those two things in himself, he cannot properly partner with a woman. And I mean that with everything in my core. This is knowledge of self we're speaking about and the importance of it.
Mm-hmm.
But we out here talking about we want to be husbands and wives because we want the status that's attached to it in this society and the tax write-offs. Yeah, I'm going to throw that in there because at the end of the day, cha-ching is always dollar signs. That's what we're focused on. But once you get to the core of it and you realize, wait a minute, it's something divine to this connection. This is beyond the surface.
Right.
Then you start dealing with men differently and you start dealing with women differently. And when you have these type of conversation, they are not one-sided. You're not tilting the scale. It's not bias. It's not bias. So I know I went on about submission there, and I just wanted to let you know, and those listening, this is why I don't really like to have this conversation, because a lot of people are not ready for this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because most of them are speaking from a biblical perspective.
Right.
But there have been systems that have existed before Christianity, spiritual systems, in fact, many of whom Christianity have borrowed their morality from.
Mm-hmm.
Many. The 10 Commandments. Okay, when you look at the principle of Ma'at, you know where Moses got that from.
Mm-hmm.
You know where you're looking like, wait, hold up now. Now, Moses, we know you went through some initiations in Kemet.
Right.
We know you were up in there in teaching. Learning, right, from a young boy. And now you come out talking about Jehovah. A lot of these issues we're saying, they're spiritual wars.
Mm-hmm.
These are different gods fighting each other and all of this. In the Bible, I'm talking about. So then you have a God that comes in and say, and you have to pay attention and you have to line it up with the history, right? You have a God that comes in and say, no, I am to be worshipped. But there was gods that were existing way before that. The priesthood that we know, the Levitical priesthood that we know in the Bible, there were priesthoods that existed in Kemet, full of women. Women have always been the spiritual sources, spiritual connections, the portals, right, to access the divine. Always been. And this is history well beyond the Bible, before there was even such a thing of Christ, before Christ even showed up in Mary's womb.
Mm-hmm.
These things existed, these systems existed way before that. And they are throughout our so-called Bible. So don't talk to me about a he God, because that's arrogance and it's disrespectful. Don't talk to me about a he God only. Don't talk to me about women being subservient to men. Don't talk to me about the centering of men, because when you talk to me from that perspective, I know you are imbalanced within yourself. Because that imbalance is not outside of you. You are projecting that imbalance into the universe because it exists within you. So there's layers to this. There's layers to this. So the submission piece, that's why I don't get into it, because I'm loaded with information. I know enough to know better, Ma'at. And it is not a slight. I love men because I love the feminine in the masculine in all aspects. And I love women too. And I want us to understand that us working together is what creates the balance. Just look at nature. Nature teaches us all things.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to go our own way and be led by these foreign doctrines. And we don't even know where they come from. Any doctrine, any ideology that puts the woman in a subservient, beneath the man position, it is anti-you, Black woman. And it is anti-nature, period. That's why I'm a leader there, because I'm over here sweating about this, because it is such a layered topic for me. And I just think that we talk about these things in such a shallow way. And there is nothing shallow about me. And so it's hard for me to participate in a lot of the conversations.
Right.
You get what I'm trying to say? Because if your only source is the Bible, then we can't have a real conversation.
Correct.
So, Ma'at, in your closing for submission, I know, Mama, I'm sorry, the fire just went off in me.
You're good. You're good. Because you was on fire, sis.
I'm sorry, but if you have anything else to say on submission, please do. But I want to also acknowledge the people in the chat, because I saw some new people come in. Go ahead. Oh, you want me to do that? Okay. So I saw Possessor. You are given undiluted truth, Hanifa. Possessor of the wings of Isis. Speaking of ISIS. Thank you. I see that new growth old soul in the building. Blessings to you. Blessings to you. Thank you for passing through. Ashan is giving the fire. Quantum is running around the Hopefully you make sure you find the exit at some point, Quantum, or else they're gonna call the ushers for you and exit you right out them people place. So yeah, so submission was my last one, Maat. I don't know if I left any out, but the last thing, if you want to bring up any that we didn't touch on, but the last thing I wanted to say is that we must learn to focus on the why of the narratives being pushed and be able to hear the undertones of what's not being said. Because a lot of these things are attacks on our blackness. Okay, and on our essence of as a people, right? And our spiritual systems, right? And our history and all of these things. We gotta be able to dissect these things and analyze them and put them under a microscope, right? And call it what it is. Like you said, call a thing, call a spade a spade.
Right.
You know? But go ahead if you have anything else, Mama.
No, I mean, you're right. Like a lot of these conversations, they're, the surface, we're not going deep. But I think it goes back to what you're saying. If your only source of information is coming from one book, and then also being able to discern what you're reading, to look at things and be able to pull from and get what you need, but then also discard the other information, because there's some things that we live in a social media era where everybody just believes whatever. You believe what is posted, you believe what is said, you listen to a video, be like, oh, okay. And you're just soaking it up because it's entertainment. We have to get past just wanting to be entertained, but really digging and trying to connect with nature, with source, with the feminine and masculine within us all. I mean, when I even think about the whole idea, like we just touched on it briefly, like the traditional and modern woman, in what that even means, like there's really, as a Black woman, what's a traditional woman? You're talking, when you hear what traditional woman, when someone hears traditional woman, it has a picture, just like we have those visuals of certain people in history. We also have visuals of these things. You have a visual of submission, you have a visual of struggle love, you have a visual of what feminine and masculine, what a feminine man is and what a masculine woman is. You have all of these visuals. But then when you start really going in, which you start with self and understanding what that looks like for you, and you don't need anyone else telling you what this is. You don't need anyone telling you what the masculine force that is within you, or the feminine force that is within you, and what that looks like to you first, and then what that looks like to your relationship. Nobody's going to tell me how to nobody's going to come into my home and tell me how to be a woman. And that's what a lot of us are doing. We have men trying to come into women's homes, telling them how to be a woman. And then we have women going into men's homes, telling them how to be men. And we have to stop doing that and start really going deep within ourselves and figuring that out for ourselves. Because just like, how you said, you got to look back and you got to look and see how vast. When we talk about how vast, don't get me started on the universe, but you talk about how vast that is. You think about you and your cells and how vast just you are and everything that makes you up. And then you're speaking to that. You're speaking to your cells. So when you start saying certain things to you, like you got to be a submissive woman, or you're too masculine, whatever that is, you're speaking certain things over you. And we have to start speaking truth into us, what that looks like, what it actually is. We are so busy following after propaganda, being programmed, but we have stopped speaking truth to ourselves. And that looks different for, like it's different for different people, because the way that I show up is not going to be the same way that Hanifa shows up. We might have some similarities, but it's going to be different in different aspects. But we have to really go deep within ourselves to understand that, because we all have a different plan for our lives. Why are we here? Why are we doing this thing? Why are we even on YouTube right now, right? Like all of these different, different reasons why we're coming together. And so if we're going to get deep, and this is why I like your platform, because we get deep on your platform, then we have to start within ourselves. But I think a lot of us are just, we just want to be entertained. We come on YouTube, or we turn the TV on just for entertainment. And if that's your goal, then that's you. But if we're really going to have these honest conversations, we have to understand, like you said, the why, the source of it. Why is it important that Black women need to be submissive? Why is it important that we continue to have these conversations and put masculinity against femininity? Going back to that. So, that's all I have to say about that. You're on mute.
Before I respond to what you just said, I wanted to make sure that, because I forgot to do this, I wanted to make sure that I put your YouTube channel in the in the what you call it, in the chat.
Oh, okay.
So that anyone that wants to subscribe to my ad, you're able to do so. I'm going to put her information in the chat, because my ad is pretty dope. She's one of my favorite people to have these kind of conversations with. Let me make sure I do that, because it came to my mind and then I forgot. Yeah, so if you want to subscribe to my ad, I just put her channel in the thing. Oh, hey Sherelle. Hey Natasha. I thought there was another Natasha in here. She says this was so powerful and all of it needed to be said. This was a recalibration and alignment. Yes. Thank you, Natasha, for passing through. I'm glad you set your reminder. Hey, Sherelle. Sherelle, you've been running them red in these streets, girl. I see you out there stirring up the pot and triggering them brothers. Good to see you, sis. It's good to see you. Glad to have you back, actually. Good to see you. Yes, Natasha, thank you. And I'm glad that you guys enjoyed the conversation. This was a lot. Ma'at, to unpack, but I'm glad that we were able to have this conversation. Either way, I was gonna have it. If I had to have it with two people here, it was gonna be had. It was going to be had, because it needed to be had. And I have so many other things that I am going to be talking about that is happening, because some things need to be disrupted, man, for the sake of future generations. Just like how we work on our negative familial patterns in our families, and some of us are working on disrupting those things. I think as a collective, when we see poison being injected into the collective, somebody has to say, this shit is poison. This is poison, and no, it's a no. I don't want my sons or the younger daughters to to have a conversation about having these conversations that are erroneous, and not really understanding who they are, and those type of things. So I'm here to disrupt in my own little corner of this space. I'm here to disrupt. And you guys might see me around on a few more panels. It really depends on which panels it is. Because some of these panels, I'm not putting myself in those spaces, because they are highly hostile and I don't have time for it. And so thanks for hanging with us, guys, and engaging us. My aunt, thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Always
I,
a pleasure.
it's always a pleasure. And I know that we are going to have more of these conversations. I intend to call on you a lot more so that we can have these conversations together. So I appreciate you very much, sis. And until next time, guys, I will be here on Monday, 6 p.m. again. And I'm here every Friday at 5 p.m. To have these kinds of conversations. So if you enjoyed it and you haven't subscribed as yet, please make sure you subscribe. Make sure you guys subscribe to my art channel. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It was a pleasure, my art. I will be talking to you soon, Mama. I appreciate you and thank you for giving me your energy today.
Oh, no problem, sis. I'll see you soon.
Alrighty. Peace, guys.